COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
It's been a year since COVID-19 appeared and ravaged the world.
Because of this, I lost my father. It's much bigger than a lot of people think.
Black and brown communities hit especially hard.
Blacks, Hispanics, low income.
If you could see what I've been through, you'll understand how I just can't hold back these tears.
Now, after a long fight, hope arrives.
Particularly for African Americans, it's really important for us to get vaccinated, and as soon as possible.
To find out that we can finally now get the vaccine, it feels amazing.
Spirits are lifting and businesses starting to return.
There is an end in sight.
Being back is super joyful.
It's the light at the end of the tunnel. This is what we've been waiting for.
Tonight, we come together as one team. A 1-hour special about education, experience, and encouragement. Now, it's the Cleveland Comeback. Facts about the Vax, live.
Good evening, Northeast Ohio, and to our friends in Toledo who are also watching this live on 13 ABC. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tiffany Tucker. Well, we are dedicating the next hour to help you get the facts about the vax. We'll look at the 3 vaccines with talk of 4 on the way. We'll talk to doctors who are ready to answer your questions tonight. We'll hear from players and coaches of all 3 Cleveland sports teams and hear from people just like you who have battled this virus and are looking forward to the comeback just on the horizon.
And I'm Nicole Versansky. Volunteers from the Ohio Department of Health are live with us right now, ready to help you. We'll be showing the phone number throughout the hour, 1-833-4ASK-ODH or 1-833-427-5634. You can call now if you have questions or if you want help booking a vaccine appointment. And right now, you're looking live towards Cleveland State University, where the Wolstein Center Mass Vaccination Clinic has been open since last week. Chris Fry begins our live team coverage outside with what you need to know about this huge undertaking. Chris.
Yeah, Nikki, good evening to you. And it has been 1 week since this mass vaccination site opened here on CSU's campus. And throughout that last week, really the last 6 days, these numbers only coming until the end of business Monday. Tonight's numbers have not been released, but over 34,000 have been vaccinated inside the Wolstein Center. These people coming from all walks of life, hoping to get their 1 or 2 shots of hope.
A new life, the new beginning. It says what it seems like, really.
It's a rebirth for many who have finally received their first dose of the COVID vaccine. After waiting months for their turn to take the shot, folks we spoke to said the process made the experience worthwhile.
They asked you questions, you answer them, got your shots, sat there for 15 minutes, that's fine.
I'm so happy. It was fast, they were sweet, they knew what they were doing, we get the business done. Very concerning, they cared.
I thought it was incredibly fast. Really? Very efficient. They got us in, got us out. I didn't even feel the shot. It was great.
Returning to a pre-COVID life will take time. For this young lady, receiving her first shot on Tuesday was the first step in reconnection and her own new beginning.
I have a group of sisters and friends that we used to go out every month to eat, and we haven't done that. Everybody got their shot. I'm the last one. So now that I get my second shot, we're going to start going out.
And that's the feeling with a lot of folks, hoping to get that 1 shot, maybe 2 shots, to return to at least some normalcy. Now, later in this special, we'll have the disparities among the black community. Those who are still hesitant in getting the shot, and those who are getting the shot. We'll see that in about 15 minutes. Outside the Wolstein Center, I'm Chris Fry. Back to you.
All right, Chris, we'll check in with you in just a few moments. Well, we know there are plenty of questions about the vaccines. Here's anchor Neha Curtis with Dr. Bruce Vanderhoff, Chief Medical Officer for the Ohio Department of Health, to dispel some of the myths you may have heard.
We know many of you still have a lot of questions about the vaccine, and we want to make sure that you and your family are informed. And joining us right now is Dr. Bruce Vanderhoff, the Chief Medical Officer with the Ohio Department of Health, to talk about what's next for Ohio.
You know, we've had a strategy that has been targeted toward reaching all parts of every community. And so our outreach efforts with vaccination sites range from hospital vaccination sites, pharmacy vaccination sites, federally qualified health centers, and mass vaccination sites, as well as some other strategies that we're pursuing, which include pop-up vaccination sites, and we're even looking at mobile vaccination sites as a possibility for the future.
Our viewers are asking, is it safe to travel with a vaccine if you've been vaccinated? And what if you have not been vaccinated? Is it safe to travel and come back into Ohio and not quarantine?
I think that we still need to recognize that there are large numbers of people who are still in the process of getting vaccinated or have not yet been vaccinated. And so we still have to be maintaining our safe approaches of masking and distancing, and that's extra true when we travel.
Do you have any myths that you have heard that you want to dispel?
There's no COVID virus in these vaccines. So that's one myth I'd like to dispel. That can't happen. Another myth I'd like to dispel is that these vaccines would have any impact whatsoever, for example, on a person's fertility. And lastly, I want to dispel the rumor that getting a vaccine is going to make you very sick. We're just not seeing that.
Well, here's your chance to ask some of our area's top doctors questions about the virus and the vaccine. All three of our major hospitals have come together to help us tonight. Right now, our Dan DeRose is in our digital studio with the experts who are separating fact from fiction for us. Dan.
Good evening, Tiffany. I've been sort of on the COVID-19 beat and the coronavirus from the beginning, trying to learn as much as I can and pass it on to the viewers so that they can make educated decisions, first of all, about how to live when we were dealing with the virus, and now that they can make educated decisions about the vaccine itself. We have assembled an incredible team, a very powerful team from all three of our major healthcare providers in Northeast Ohio. We have representatives from the Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, and Metro Health Medical Center. I'm going to go to Dr. Brooke Watts here as we start to talk about the vaccine and people's fears. I'm watching people's questions come in on Facebook right now. People saying that they feel that the vaccine was just developed too quickly. Dr. Watts, what is your response to that?
Sure. I have to tell you, I feel very optimistic. We have a lot of work left to do, but we know what we need to do. We know what this is, we know what this virus is, and we know what we need to do about it. And one of the number one things we can all do right now is get vaccinated. And I'm vaccinated, and I would bet money that everyone on this call is vaccinated. And God bless, I had the privilege to spend today with 1,000 more people who are vaccinated in one of our neighborhoods of color. The vaccines, particularly the mRNA vaccines, which we hear a lot of sort of concerns and controversy, that's the Pfizer and Moderna. The vaccine themselves, specific to this virus, is new, but the technology is not. And I invite anyone who has concerns to take a look at the research that's gone on for 2 decades now into this technology. This is something we've been working on for a long time. It was good, hard work that paid off in the right direction. And so I feel very, very good that these are safe and the right thing for our community.
And Dr. Watts, you're the one who brought it up. So let me ask our panel a show of hands here. How many of our medical professionals here have in fact received your first and second doses? If you don't feel like answering, don't raise your hand. But if you have, let's see it. And there it is, all 6 of our medical professionals, a very good makeup, a representation of Northeast Ohio. All 6 have gotten it. And Dr. Sherry Williams, I'd like to ask you as we head into this and the vaccination, people who are on the fence and saying, boy, I just don't know about long-term effects. Let's be honest, the people who tried this in trials were given the shot back in August. So none of us really know long-term what would happen if you took a vaccine. Dr. Sherry Williams, how do you address that with individuals who say, who knows what this is going to do to my body in a year from now?
So what I always say to people who are concerned is, first of all, it's natural to have some questions and to want answers to those questions. And I always encourage them to talk things over with their healthcare providers so that they get good, sound information. One of the things that I always say also is there is such a thing as possible, and then there's such a thing as probable or likely. And so although many things are possible in the distant future, the issue is how likely or how probable is something. And the likelihood or probability that down the line, this vaccine would cause problems is highly unlikely and not probable, based on the fact, as Dr. Watts has already pointed out, that this technology is technology that's been around for some time. And although we've applied it in a different situation, it's a technology that has been studied and used, and we have not seen problems with it. The other thing I always encourage people about also is that the disease itself, COVID, has long-term effects. And whenever you look at the benefits versus the risk, there's significant benefit to being vaccinated and avoiding getting COVID because COVID itself has lasting effects. And we're finding out more and more about that each day.
And Dr. Sherry Williams bring up some incredible points there. I want to point out to those of you who are watching on Channel 19 Live right now, we are going to continue our discussion on Facebook with our panel here. Get on the Cleveland 19 Facebook page. Get in with your questions and concerns. We're going to continue this, although we're moving on to other things here on Channel 19. Join us on Facebook. Get your questions in. Why have you decided to take the vaccine or not to take the vaccine? And we will get some of your questions into our panel of experts. For now, Tiffany, let's send it back to you.
All right, as we've been saying, Diane, and just to reiterate, this hour is about vaccine education. We can't tell you enough. The conversation, as Dan mentioned, continues on our Cleveland 19 Facebook page, in case you missed it. If you have a question, any question for our panel of doctors, leave a comment. We will get to as many of them as we possibly can. Nikki.
Well, if you don't have access to the internet, you can still ask questions. Right now, you can even book a vaccine appointment. The Ohio Department of Health is standing by. The number right there at the bottom of your screen, 1-833-4-ASK-ODH or 1-833-427-5634. Belinda Kerr is with ODH. She is with us now. So Belinda, what are some of the questions you're hearing from our viewers tonight? Belinda, you might be muted. Isn't this something we've all gotten used to during the pandemic? These Zoom calls, the mute button, who's in the background. Belinda, can we hear you now? All right, we're gonna move on here. We'll try and get the audio fixed. Belinda, we'll check back in with you and your staff in just a bit.
Chris Tanaka now joined by NFL Head Coach of the Year and one-time COVID patient, Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski. Kevin, thank you so much for making time. I know your schedule's busy, but this is certainly an important venture we're on tonight.
Very important, Chris, and that's why I'm happy to be here with you guys tonight.
Yeah. I want to go back, Coach. I've been thinking about this since really you started. You're a rookie head coach in the NFL, your first shot in unprecedented conditions, coaching up a group of men who are new that you can't really connect with in person. This is sometime in the spring of 2020, in a sport based on primacy. Was there any difficulty being a new coach trying to communicate to these young men, these alpha males, that there was serious danger at a microscopic level that they couldn't see in this virus?
Yeah, I think that was a challenge, certainly early, and I think we were very fortunate to have information at our fingertips, and information is power. So our work with university hospitals and our medical staff, we're able to present to the players, to the staff, some real hard facts and what we knew and what was going to keep us and them safe. So we really tried to just double down on the science of this all. make sure that the guys were very, very well informed about what was going to make this season go, and make sure that we had a full season, because that was up in the air when you think about going back to spring of last year.
As the season progressed, in early November, the Herculean figure on the roster, Myles Garrett, contracted the virus. Behind the scenes, because I know up front you had to say, look, we've prepared for this, we're going to keep going, but behind the scenes, what was the reaction like from teammates who see this guy and his superhuman stature in the locker room suddenly be felled by this virus?
Yeah, you're right. I think a lot of us, and especially when you look like Myles, you think those guys are invincible. And this virus doesn't discriminate. I tried very, very hard not to get it myself, but it's very contagious. So it was in our communities during our season, and unfortunately we were without players at some points, without coaches at some points, and I think it was just a stark reminder about how this thing was just out there, and we had to be as careful as possible to make sure that we're trying so hard to keep each other safe.
Of course, we'll have more from the coach later on in the show, including more on what he went through, more detail, his mind, the moment he found out he had contracted COVID-19. Plus, we'll talk about the unique partnership the Indians, Browns, and Cavaliers formed to address this and many other social issues. Nikki.
Well, the Cleveland Cavaliers head coach, J.B. Bickerstaff, rolled up his sleeve and received his shot at Northeast Ohio Neighborhood Health Services tonight. He wanted to talk to you, the viewers, about his experience.
I educated myself on the COVID vaccine a few different ways. Obviously, there's a lot of information on the internet. There's a lot of information on different news outlets. But I also talked to a lot of people who had the vaccine before I had. My parents both had it. I had long conversations with them. My wife has already had conversations with her. And talk to other people who were knowledgeable about the vaccines, the process for the vaccines, and how beneficial they can be.
We're just going to clean it off your arm. I want you to relax it as much as you can.
It was important to me to get the vaccine because it's an opportunity for us to get life back to normal. It's an opportunity for us to do the things that we love to do, but safely.
And ready, 1, 2, 3, go. Just a little Band-Aid to cover up.
And individually, we have a huge impact on our communities, getting people back to work, being able to spend time with our families for the holidays, all the small things that, in the past we may have taken for granted. The vaccine is going to open doors and allow us to get back to doing those things.
It's time for us to come together and take the next step and do vaccinations.
I think it's responsible. I think everybody should get it, because whether you think it's going to work or not, it's responsible to do it.
Communities of color bearing the brunt of the pandemic.
The Black community, we continue to die disproportionately from this virus.
There still remains significant bias and significant structural racism.
Striking racial disparities at the forefront of the vaccine rollout.
We would, definitely appreciate being invited to the table.
I know the people is really waiting for this.
I feel great.
19 News anchor Damon Maloney has been studying this issue of racial disparity with the vaccine. He's here now to break down some of the numbers the state is reporting on their COVID website.
The state of Ohio has been very transparent when it comes to the data. This is a look at the coronavirus, the COVID-19 dashboard from the state and the Department of Health. You can see as of Tuesday morning, 2.8 million Ohioans have received or started the COVID-19 vaccination process. That's 24% of the state's population. There's a number of breakdowns on this page, including age group and sex, but let's zone in here on race. There's been a great discussion about the disparities that we're seeing when it comes to different racial groups getting the vaccine. So you can see right here, Whites in Ohio, 23.5% of the population has started the vaccine process. When it comes to African Americans, it's about half of that, so it's lagging. About 12.14% of the state's black population has started the vaccine process. We've been talking about the history of medical mistrust being a factor here, also just vaccine hesitation and other complex issues. I found a study from the National Equity Atlas, and it pointed out that about 21.6% of black households in Ohio do not have access to a vehicle compared to about 6% of whites in our state. And they were explaining how this played a big role, especially when we saw those early vaccine sites that were drive-through only, transportation knocking a lot of people out of the picture when it came to getting a COVID-19 shot. But things are starting to change here. We know the Wolstein Center has opened up as a mass vaccine site in a neighborhood that really serves the greater population here, giving people access to the coronavirus vaccine. Other initiatives that are taking place too, including public education campaigns, including the one we're doing here tonight, and also getting civic leaders and civil rights organizations involved to really get the message out there and also help getting people to those different vaccine sites. Damon Maloney, 19 News.
All right, Chris Fry live outside the Wolstein Center, and much more on this topic that Damon just discussed, speaking about blacks and really the wide gap in the African-American community not getting the vaccine. Of course, it all stems from distrust and vaccine hesitancy stemming back from the Tuskegee experiment. It's definitely a painful subject to talk about, even with my generation and older generations. Well, today, I spoke with two individuals, one black man, one black woman. They took the vaccine, but it took a lot to finally convince them. It's still a daunting task to get the African American community vaccinated. But having the state's first mass vaccination site at the Wolstein Center offers access. But access is one thing. Getting the shot is another. This gentleman's wife, who's a nurse, was all the reason he needed.
And she got the shot, and it wasn't that bad. And I said, well, you know what? If she can do it, I can do it too.
For others, it was education.
I was kind of nervous about it, but then, as I seen other people getting it, it eased my mind. So I'm like, I'm doing a good thing.
And this last message for those who are still on the fence about taking the shot.
My daughter caught the virus. My granddaughter caught the virus. My brother caught the virus. And so they had some real bad experiences. They said, this is not the flu. This is a very serious thing. And I also know a couple people who died. So if I have to look at facing possible death versus taking the vaccine, I'm betting on taking the vaccine.
And for a lot of people, it has really come down to that decision. They've known someone, and it has persuaded them to say, hey, I need to come down to the Wolstein Center and take this vaccination. Now, speaking of the Wolstein Center, this is in proximity of the east side of Cleveland, where the majority of African Americans reside within the city of Cleveland. And along with transportation services, free transportation services to get those individuals to and from this site, the hope is to get as many black folk and just people of color to this location to get that one shot of hope. Live on the Cleveland State University campus, Chris Fry, 19 News.
And it is well documented how COVID is disproportionately affecting all minority communities. Marlis Rambo, chairperson of Lake Erie Native American Council, says the community is feeling invisible.
Our people are extremely high risk due to so many autoimmune diseases that we have, due to diabetes. So many members of our community have diabetes. It runs in families and it runs rampant. It goes from generation to generation to generation. So it's not surprising to me at all that we have such a high mortality rate compared to the general public. We are invisible, unfortunately, to many parts of the society at large. We would, definitely appreciate being invited to the table on things that affect us. This is something that is seriously affecting us. How how to reach out to our community and how to get them vaccinated if they choose to do so.
And over the past couple of months, our reporter Harry Boomer has documented his personal decision to get vaccinated. He received his first dose live on the air.
So what I want you to do is just relax your arm, though. Okay?
Easy for you to say.
Oh, it is. It never hurts me a bit, remember? All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3, ow.
Is that it?
That is it.
Jeez.
Not even a drop of bloodshed.
And I still feel good.
He still feels good. All right. For some people, they may want to get vaccinated, but there are significant barriers. Our Stephen Hernandez takes a look at those working to remove those obstacles.
I've always felt embarrassed.
Maria Rodriguez knows what it's like to not being able to read. Now she's helping others with their literacy while also encouraging them to learn the right information about the COVID vaccine.
I feel what they feel, and I feel the scare, the worry, the tension.
While many Clevelanders want to get their shot, adult illiteracy means they are swayed in the wrong direction by rumors and fake facts. Rodriguez, who works at Seeds of Literacy on the West Side, has heard of these reasonings firsthand.
I'm allergic to this kind of food. Oh, I'm not going to take the COVID because somebody told me if I take the COVID with my health issue, I'm going to die.
Illiteracy is also a significant hurdle to overcome for minorities. 66% of Clevelanders are functionally illiterate, and some neighborhoods have an illiteracy rate of 95%, predominantly in areas with minority communities. Marianne Nicolay, a volunteer at the site, says public health organizations have relied too heavily on a one-size-fits-all approach.
Some people are willing to listen and learn. Other people are just throwing up their hands and walking away because they don't know what to listen to anymore.
Rodriguez has since been able to get her own dose of the vaccine, and she's hoping to use her experience to show other people the importance of getting vaccinated.
Some people, they want to learn, they want to know, but they're afraid to ask. One person can make a difference. And if it has to be you, the first person, then you need to do it.
In Cleveland, Stephen Hernandez, 19 News.
At the Cleveland Public Library are doing their part. FEMA workers at the Rice branch of the library on Shaker Boulevard are helping you make your vaccination appointment. The library also giving out free RTA bus passes to anyone needing a ride. Free at-home COVID-19 test kits also available. Well, the pandemic peeled back the layers of some serious problems in our nation's healthcare system. Head back over to Dan DeRose right now. Our medical experts, they're talking about the racial disparities, Dan, we've seen with this virus and the vaccinations.
And one of the reasons we have assembled such an incredible panel from our 3 major health systems is so that there can be a voice for all of those who feel voiceless at this time. We've been taking questions from people for the last half hour on our Facebook page, and several questions have come up. And I want to ask Dr. Teresa Dews from the Cleveland Clinic. We just had this question come up. Should a minority, this person said, I'm a minority. Should I get the vaccine?
Yes.
You got to give me a little more than that, doctor. Why should they feel comfortable?
I couldn't resist being just absolutely definitive. So it's really important for people to consider where they come from in their culture, the information that they have, and getting the vaccine has become deeply personal. Now, people of color, Blacks in particular, they have a lot of distrust for systems. They distrust the medical system. Sometimes people distrust the government. And that's something that we deal with all the time. So we have to listen, where are people coming from? It's very individual. So I have some patients that are just hesitant because they want more information. I have other patients who are hesitant because they feel that they're too sick or they have too many allergies in order to get one of the vaccines. So we have to rely on the relationships that we develop with our patients and really talk to them and meet them where they are and help them understand wherever they're coming from, put things into perspective and context. That's very, very important context. So I still come back to my initial answer. Anyone who asks me, Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, immigrants, anyone, when they're asking me, my answer to them is yes.
A great answer from Dr. Teresa Drews. Let's continue on this topic. I want to put out a statistic there. So far in the state of Ohio, only 8.9 of those, 8.9% of the state's population that represents Hispanic and Latinos have taken the shot. Less than 10%. As we asked Dr. Eduardo Morales, Doctor, why and what can you say to the Latino population that visits your office? What do you say when it comes to the question, should I take the shot?
Yes, absolutely. There's many good reasons to do it. And there's many reasons that are keeping you away from doing it. Some of them are cultural, as Dr. Drews talked about. Some of them are misinformation coming through social media, conspiracy theories, things that make no sense at all. I mean, we would not be here at 9 o'clock talking to you all if this was not important. We need to move towards it. So this is mainly important for the Hispanic community because we are social. We are terribly social people, and not being together is what is happening right now with this pandemic. It has put a lot of patients, a lot of Latinos in the hospital and leave them with consequences for a long period of time with their family, economically, socially, work. It really, the effects that we see from this virus are not to be played with. So the answer to the community is yes, sí, pónganse la vacuna.
Very good answer there, Dr. Morales. With about the last 30 seconds we have left before we continue our discussion, actually we've got about a minute and a half left here. I want to turn to our pediatrician expert, Dr. Lolita McDavid with University Hospitals, Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. When we start talking about minority children, is it any different than talking about Caucasian children when deciding to get the shot?
Well, remember, race is a construct, okay? So when you were talking to Dr. Morales, if I spoke Spanish, I'd be golden because people come up to me in New York all the time and they want to start talking to me in Spanish, and I was told that I look like I'm from Honduras. So it's not a monolith, okay? To be Hispanic or to be Black, it's a whole spectrum. And so I think the more that you inform people, the better it is. But remember, you've got to go to people where they are. So for me, if I were designing a system in Cleveland for the Hispanic population, I would specifically go to their churches because the majority of Hispanics in Cleveland are not Catholic. They're apostolic and Pentecostal, and they listen to their religious community. And so you have to go to people where they are. If you don't know that about them, then you don't really know how to reach them. And the same thing with Black people. I mean, we run the spectrum. You know, we have people who are not as educated and people who are highly educated. And so you have to go to people where they are and answer their questions and make them feel comfortable. But I think when you look like them or you speak the same language, you know, we were talking in my office about, you know, what should be our outreach to the Asian population in Cleveland, the majority of whom are Chinese. So I said, well, are we going to do ads in Mandarin or Cantonese? And people said, huh? Well, no, everybody in China doesn't speak one language and their dialects. And so this is a huge, huge hurdle for us to get over because you can't just say somebody is Hispanic or somebody is Black or somebody is Asian. There are all kinds of gradations within that.
Correct, and it's just part of the issue that is impacting our state as a whole. For those of you watching on Cleveland 19, for those of you watching in Toledo on Channel 13, we're going to continue our discussion on the Cleveland 19 Facebook page, so feel free to join us there. We'll be back on Channel 19 in just a minute.
I don't want to roll the dice or take a chance
on putting my family and those I love in a tougher situation. So the benefits way outweigh the risks.
Well, several Cavs legends have rolled up their sleeves to get vaccinated. Former Cavs big man and current radio analyst Jim Jones got his shot. Another Cavs legend, Campy Russell, didn't hesitate to take the shot when his time came. The TV analyst says this is about taking care of humanity.
Hello, I'm Austin Carr of the Cavaliers, and I want to tell you a little bit about my COVID journey. I unfortunately got the virus, and it really is something that you don't want to get. So what I'd like to tell you to do is to get your vaccine. I am getting ready to get mine next week, and I'm looking forward to it. And the reason why is because not only do I want to protect myself, but I want to protect the other members of our community. So get the vaccine. It's very important, and have a good day.
Yo soy Rafa Hernández Brito, la voz en español de los Cavaliers de Cleveland, y quiero pedirles que por favor se informen, se eduquen acerca de la vacuna y hagan todo lo posible de recibir su vacuna contra el COVID-19. And I've been asked here today why I chose to vaccinate myself against COVID-19, and the easy answer is that I want to do everything I can to help myself, help my family, and help the community in staying safe and try to get that route to get back to normal. The best advice I have for all of you is to do your research, get informed, talk to your doctors, talk to friends of yours that have gotten the vaccine. And for me, I really want to see my parents. I haven't seen them in more than 2 years. They're 94 and 84 years old, so it's very important for me to keep my family safe and to also see my family. So do your research, talk to your doctors, and if you can, get vaccinated.
All right, another live look right now at the Ohio Department of Health phone bank. You can see they are busy taking your calls, our viewers' calls. They're working late tonight just for you. So the number to call if you have a question or if you want help booking an appointment to get a vaccine, right there on the bottom of your screen, 1-833-4ASK-ODH or 1-833-427-5634. Give them a call. They are, again, doing this tonight, working late just for you to help answer any questions you may have about COVID, any questions you may have about the vaccine, and of course, how to make an appointment to be able to get a shot.
If more African Americans decide not to take the vaccination, more of us are going to continue to be negatively impacted.
I'm taking the vaccine for my family, for my Latinos, for my patients.
Signs of a comeback.
It's nice to be, talking face to face with people.
Patrons dining inside. Students heading back to class.
It's a wonderful thing to get back. We've been waiting for this.
Well, for the first time in a year, many students in the Cleveland and Toledo schools are finally headed back to the classroom.
It's hard for me to do the schoolwork because it's on a computer and you gotta tap the stuff on there and stuff, and some stuff it won't work, but in real school it will.
Since Chief Precious, well, the back-to-school attire looked a little different. Students donning face shields and masks, but both students and parents glad school is back in session, Nikki.
And Tiffany fans, I know I'm one of them, getting ready to return to the corner of Carnegie and Ontario. The Indians team doctors from the Cleveland Clinic gave the team a crash course in vaccination education today in Goodyear, Arizona. The Indians' home opener just around the corner, April 5th.
Baseball. It's a Cleveland tradition that brings people together from across neighborhoods and generations.
That tradition was a lot different last year, and it's not the same without you in the ballpark.
We missed seeing your faces. We missed hearing your voices.
We miss the walk-offs.
Some things are better in person and better together, like Progressive Field on a summer night.
We've made it this far together. Let's continue to do the things we need to do to keep everybody safe.
so we can get our restaurants, our concert venues, and our stadiums back to full capacity. Continue to mask up.
Continúen usando la máscara.
Wash your hands.
Lávese las manos.
Maintain safe social distancing.
Mantenga el distanciamiento social.
Get the facts about the vaccine and talk to your physician to make a decision that's right for you and your family.
The Cleveland comeback starts with you.
El regreso de Cleveland depende de ustedes.
The Cleveland comeback starts with you. Go to Indians.com/updates to learn more.
That's for sure. Getting informed about the vaccine is the key to returning to some sense of normalcy. Let's head back over to Dan DeRose with our medical experts. Dan, how's it going?
And for this segment with our doctors, our panel of experts, we want to talk about herd immunity. When you have, we've been watching the older populations, the 65 and up, and we can't seem to break 70% of Ohioans in that older population who have been vaccinated with at least the first shot. Is that an access issue? Are those people who are frustrated and have given up on getting the vaccine? Or is that 30% of the state's older population saying they're just not going to get it? Dr. Daniel Simon, I'd like to ask you, sir, about herd immunity. If for say 30% of Ohioans don't get this vaccine, can we ever get to a herd immunity status?
Well, herd immunity is complex. It includes both the percentage of the population that's vaccinated as well as the percentage of the population that's had a COVID infection. Estimates right now, latest from the CDC as of this morning, is that the U.S. achieves herd immunity on June 21st, based on our present vaccination rate of 2.5 million shots a day. If we can get up to 3 million, we can shorten that time down, to May. If we lapse, then it pushes out towards the fall. So I think it's a combination. We need to get about 50% of the U.S. population vaccinated with about 20% background based on antibody tests, that about 20% of the population has had either a symptomatic or an asymptomatic infection. So I've been watching that every day. It's gone from, 2022 to November 30th to now about June 20th. I'm very optimistic, but it depends on our ability to keep our foot on the gas, go from 2.5 million shots a day up to 3 million. And I have to say, it wasn't long ago that we were only at 1 million, so I'm very optimistic.
Dr. Brooke Watts, let's continue this conversation about herd immunity. Do you fear that people are going to hear that date of June 21st and are going to let down and are going to start taking masks off, or are going to decide, well, I'm not going to get the shot if we're going to get there by June 21st anyway?
No, I'm very optimistic that this community knows what we need to do to end this pandemic. I hope everybody out there, I'm ready to get back to my life. I suspect you are ready to get back to your life. I could sure watch some baseball this summer. And the way to get there is to get vaccinated and to be smart. That means we know what to do. Keep doing the social distancing, keep doing the masking, and get vaccinated. And listen, if you're a young person and you're on the fence about vaccination, look, you don't do it for yourself. You do it for the vulnerable people in our community. This is the same thing for flu. There are a lot of folks out there whose immune systems, or for other reasons, they won't have the same benefit for the vaccine. And these are the folks that are really feeling the consequences and, frankly, the deaths that we're seeing with COVID virus. So if you're a young, healthy person and you're out and about and you can get vaccinated to protect the most vulnerable among us, be a hero. Now's the time. Do your part. Let's end this thing. We know how.
Boy, isn't that a message of positivity? Dr. Morales, I'd like to ask you about the AstraZeneca vaccine. Where do we stand with that? We've got about a minute left in our discussion here. Where do we stand with AstraZeneca? First we hear it's close, then it's not close. Where are we at with that?
We should be actually happy about it. This is a manifestation that the methods that we have to ensure that what we're getting to our people and that the messages that we're delivering to our people are clear, and the checks and balances are working. So I think it's a matter of time of seeing that that getting the facts clear. Let the experts in the CDC and FDA do what they know best and tell us this is appropriate. And then the moment that they give us the go ahead here, it's a go. I mean, that's the same process that they have followed for each one of the other vaccines, and we should trust them because that's what they do and have been doing for a long period of time.
And as you said, that should be peace of mind for some individuals that the process is working, even if it means studying one drug over another just a little bit longer. We're going to turn this back over to Tiffany, but again, if you'd like to join in our conversations, have questions for our doctors, we're going to continue it on the Cleveland 19 Facebook page. Tiffany, back to you.
A lot of good information, Dan. Thank you so much. Well, we talked earlier with Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski and his bout with COVID-19. Our Chris Tanaka continues his one-on-one conversation with the coach.
Besides the medical aspect of it, what were you forced to confront about the virus and the pandemic and yourself? Were there moments of thought? Or were you backtracking? What could I have done better? What was it like?
Well, without a doubt, I was thinking that because, like I said, I tried to follow the protocols to the best of my ability. So it was shocking. I think if you take yourself back to March of 2020 and when it first was becoming very real in our society and things were closing down, you know, I was like everybody else. I said, I'm not getting this thing. And sure enough, I got it.
Do you have any advice for people?
This has been a difficult year for a lot of people, a lot of families, not just here in Northeast Ohio, but throughout this world. So we want to make sure that people know that they have our support, that we're there with them. And as we, God willing, start to turn the corner and get out of this, that people know that it's going to constantly be something that we're working together to make sure that we're keeping everybody very safe and sound throughout our communities.
Absolutely. I loved what you were able to do organizationally, transcending your league to work with the Cavaliers and the Indians to form the Cleveland Alliance. This is something that has gained applause across the country. Initially, that was born of social justice. However, how have you been able to leverage the relationship with the other two franchises in this effort?
It's been outstanding. I can't tell you how proud I am to be a small part of it. You know, what we figured very early on is we are definitely stronger together. So with the three teams and with all of our resources and our ability to get out there in the community, we know that our reach is vast. And again, it's something when it's coming from the three of us together, I think is really, really powerful.
It really is. Coach, last question for you. It may be the most difficult. No one can predict the future. You don't know what's going to happen in the fall. What happens if a couple of weeks into the season, things are going well, and out of nowhere, the backside edge defender no longer scrapes down the line to maintain gap integrity, but takes a steeper attack angle on Baker when he's bootlegging on the play action? That's your bread and butter.
Wow, I think I need to get you in here and start drawing some things up on the board for it. That's an elite football mind right there.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We all look forward to what you have up your sleeve to counter that and much more in the fall. Head coach Kevin Stefanski, thanks for your time.
Appreciate you guys.
Chris Tanaka in rare form, right? All right. Well, you see the number there we keep showing on the screen. It's to the Ohio Department of Health. They are working tonight just to take your calls, to answer any questions that you may have about the vaccine. And of course, if you want to sign up to get a shot, they're going to help you through that process. And while as Browns fans, we certainly were enjoying a fantastic season, playoffs, the team's health staff was working overtime trying to keep players and coaches safe. Well, earlier this week, I got a chance to speak with the Browns Senior Vice President of Player Health and Development, Joe Sheehan. Take me through just the past year and, I mean, the tremendous challenges of playing a football season in the middle of a global pandemic.
Pandemics really drive innovation, right? And innovation comes through collaboration. And as you think back through our football season, the level of collaboration that occurred across the board in the healthcare community, everybody coming together to continue to evolve guidelines as the season went on, to continue to educate players, coaches, et cetera, on just how to stay safe day in and day out while we were playing football. It was really fun and definitely rewarding to be a part of.
Now we're just looking forward to the big NFL draft here in Cleveland come April.
Yes, it's going to be a great event. Looking forward to getting some people together, really putting a highlight on the city of Cleveland. So it'll be fun to see such an exciting event here located in our city, and really it'll be fun to put it on in kind of a safe and really enjoyable manner.
I've taken the initial step, and I can physically be an example to people in the community.
I mean, I just tear up now. It's been a long year.
They told me I had a heart attack 8 days earlier.
Patients delaying trips to the hospital due to fear of COVID.
Your health should not be ignored during a pandemic.
From mammograms to colonoscopies, doctors say it's time to come back. Your life may depend on it.
Routine screenings, even trips to the ER have been delayed or skipped completely because of the pandemic. But doctors are stressing just how dangerous that can be. In fact, an Ohio man nearly died because he waited to get medical help when he needed it.
I felt a pain in my chest, which lasted about 20, 30 seconds, and I didn't think anything of it.
It was late March 2020 in the midst of the pandemic, and for 65-year-old Ralph Schubeck, heading to the hospital didn't seem like an option.
I'm not one that usually goes to a doctor or anything, okay? And that was a mistake right there, okay?
Were you nervous about the pandemic?
Somewhat.
What Ralph didn't realize is that he had had a heart attack. 8 days later, he could barely breathe, the pain radiating throughout his body. His surgeon, Dr. Aaron Weiss at the Cleveland Clinic, describes what was happening.
There was a heart attack that happened, and it caused a hole between the two ventricles of the heart. And so 1 out of 3 people don't survive this problem.
Ralph's delayed call for help was threatening his life. By the time he called EMS, he was fading. He was life-flighted to the Cleveland Clinic main campus for emergency open heart surgery.
When I was in recovery at the hospital, and some of the nurses staff and the doctors says, "You're lucky to be here," and they nicknamed me the Miracle One.
Unfortunately, we're seeing this far too often.
Dr. Weiss says a new Cleveland Clinic study found more than 50% of Americans did not reach out to a doctor when they experienced a concerning health issue during the pandemic.
We are still seeing delayed care. It's just, it may not be as sort of emergency filled as Ralph's case was, but we still see it.
There's growing concern among doctors what a continued delay in routine visits and screenings will mean for the future.
Patients are showing up less for their ambulatory surgical procedures. They're showing up less for screening mammograms. They're showing up less for dental procedures, vision care, all these things. And we really need to capture everybody back in so that their health continues to not suffer.
The doctor's message to those delaying care echoes Ralph's, who now knows the decision to wait could cost you your life.
And by delaying it, instead of having a stent put in, something easy procedure turn into a catastrophe.
Seek out that help, whether it's an emergency or non-emergency, and take care of themselves. And we are going to do our best to help you.
During this pandemic, sometimes lonely for moms, and a real danger for medical staff who have delivered babies of COVID-positive mothers. The end result sometimes so sweet in the midst of such tragedy.
During this last year, we've had a lot of uncertainty, and no more. Even when we as healthcare professionals are supposed to be there to provide confidence and reassurance to our patients, we ourselves were very unsure about what was going to happen.
I had my fear, but I knew that life had to go on. We had to continue, cannot live in fear. So I still come to work, 3 months pregnant, 6 months pregnant. with the fear in the back of my mind.
We still had to provide that reassurance for our patients and confidence in us to say, you know, we are still going to take care of you when you come into the hospital to birth, and we are still going to try to make this as normal of a birth experience as we can for you, and really still try and give you everything that you need.
We're isolated. These are dark times. So when you do find someone that you connect with, you hold tight to them.
Our Centering Pregnancy program is unique. It's group prenatal care, so we group mothers that are due around the same time with other mothers. I think being at home with a lot of uncertainty and not knowing what was going to happen and being fearful in pregnancy for yourself and for your baby, I think Centering offered that kind of support that so many people needed and wanted.
Centering was a savior. It really was. It really was. I'm still friends with those 7 couples to this day. No one will understand what it is like being pregnant in the pandemic. Scary time. But those women, yeah.
We really try to focus on being there for our patients so often that sometimes we were the only support people, or maybe they didn't have the exact people that they needed there, or family members were sick, and so there was often times that we needed to be everything for the patients when they came in. Our team has been amazing in the care that they provided throughout this entire pandemic, with a smile on their face, though you might not be able to see it behind the mask, but really try to be there for our patients to continue to give that great care.